So things seem to be getting very interesting on the Nintendo Switch and RPG front here with the game that people thought wouldn't be coming over, but will be coming over, it seems, to consoles. So we have to get into this because I didn't expect it, wasn't really paying too much attention, but it's definitely important that we talk about it and we see what happens. Plus we have an interesting comment when it comes to Capcom and Monster Hunter Wilds and why it's not on the Nintendo Switch, but what we could see in the future when it comes to Nintendo platforms. We also have new information on a big Western RPG franchise that is gearing up to get its next entry announced sometime soon. We've got to talk about this. Before we get into all that, what's good everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, and click that notification bell to get my Nintendo Switch and RPG videos first. Now let's go ahead and jump right into the first topic here, and that is Persona 5, The Phantom X. Yes, the mobile game that's been going through all sorts of weird stuff and testing, and it's not going to be for the West, and it's not going to be on console, it's only going to be mobile and app to, okay, well, maybe it is coming. So, not even maybe, confirmed to be coming over to be getting a console port. But what platforms, when, and where? Well, I think the Nintendo Switch could be involved in that, in addition to potentially even the Nintendo Switch 2. PlayStation, we have to wait and see here. But let's get into the topic. Shout outs to MyNintendoNews for everything here. So, Persona 5, The Phantom X, for those who don't know, was released by Atlus for iOS and Android devices in April in Japan, and will eventually be getting a console port now at this point. Now, Persona 5X producer Lau V, Japanese producer Yosuke Uda, and Atlus character designer Shigenori Soejima told attendees at the Persona 5 The Phantom X event in Shanghai that they will begin work on the console versions of the smartphone title once they have released the mobile game internationally. The duo also discussed plans for upcoming collaborations, of which there are bound to be plenty. Now, let's talk about the collaborations first, then we'll get into the Q&A. So, the Persona 5 Pyramid and Space Station chapters will be made available after the summer events. There are long-term plans for further Persona collaborations. Currently, the plan for the collaboration with Persona 5 Royal, Persona 3 Reload, and Persona 4 Golden in that order. So there should be events and different things happening within the game. So this could be a pretty cool Persona, fan type of game for players to be able to play when it comes over to console if you're not going to play it on iOS or Android. Now, one more collaboration thing here, guys. There will also be offline collaborations with other brands later in the year, so we'll have more information on that. Now, here are the Q&A answers. Atlus has decided the outline of the ending to Persona 5X's story, and it's currently being refined and developed. And this is the important here, work on the console versions of Persona 5X will get underway after the international release. So it's definitely something they wanted to make sure that they let people know about it. And this is actually pretty cool that they tell us now, because some people will actually get into the mobile version and play it, and then later they'll announce a console version. You're like, oh man, I already spent all that time on the mobile version. Chances are it's Atlus, so they're not going to do cross-save, which is just something Atlus doesn't do, despite there probably being a pretty high ratio of people buying their games multiple times on different platforms and stuff, especially with Persona 5 Royal and everything. So they don't do cross-save, they don't do the transferring stuff. So I think that it's pretty cool that they let us know now at this point, so we can just say, okay, I'll just wait for the console version. But what consoles will it be coming to? So the game is coming out later this year. It's going to be finished up. So I'm guessing that it could be PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and maybe even Nintendo Switch 2. Now, you don't know if they want to include Xbox in there. They definitely could. I definitely think a PC release is absolutely coming as well. That's something that they're probably going to do. But they already have Persona 3, 4, and 5 on all modern platforms at this point, and it seems like Atlus wants to continue doing that. So I would expect it to probably be on all modern platforms. They might even stagger the releases. We don't exactly know how they're going to do it, but I would expect it to show up on the Nintendo Switch or the Nintendo Switch 2, PlayStation 4, or PlayStation 5, or both, or all of these, and even Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X, and PC. So if you do want to play this game, which I do want to play it because it actually looks pretty cool from the footage that I've seen, then you should just absolutely wait for the console release here. Now, once again, I was just speculating on what consoles it could come to, but I'm guessing based off of Persona 3, 4, and 5, they might want to do those systems. But once again, this is not a major, huge Persona release. It's a mobile game that's absolutely not the scale and size of a Persona 5 Royal. So they might want to save money on that console release. So they might skip out on some consoles or wait or do something. We're not really sure. Atlus can be kind of weird at times, but a good weird at times, bad weird at other times. But overall, we're just going to have to wait and see exactly what they decide to do. But when they do have that console port, I'll definitely be playing. These collaborations look cool. The gameplay looks like Persona 5, but new characters, different things. And it looks like if you're into the press turn system, if you're into Persona and Shin Megami Tensei, then this game will be right up your alley. So I'll definitely be checking it out when it drops on consoles, probably sometime next year or so. Now let's get into the next thing here, and we're talking about Capcom because it was a very interesting story. I saw this plastered over everywhere, and I wanted to give you guys some extra context and extra thought with it. So Capcom comments on the lack of Monster Hunter Wilds for the Nintendo Switch. Now, most of us, when we first saw Monster Hunter Wilds, were thinking, that's a Nintendo Switch 2 type of game. That's definitely not going to be on the standard Nintendo Switch. And if they do make it for the standard Nintendo Switch, it's probably going to look very different from what we just saw right here. However, investors don't think necessarily that way because they're looking at the money side of the thing. And if you look at the money side of it, you look at what Capcom has done with Monster Hunter on Nintendo platforms, but specifically with Monster Hunter Rise selling 10 million plus on the Nintendo Switch by itself, and the Nintendo Switch being a beast in Japan overall for sales. And if you look at obviously the lower install base of the Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5, you can see why some investors are thinking, wait a minute, hold up, you guys are going to sell way less if you don't have Monster Hunter Wilds on this massive platform. But let's get into what Capcom had to say here overall. Here was the question from the investor first. You have announced Monster Hunter Wilds for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, but not for portable platforms like the Nintendo Switch. Will this game be limited to these non-portable consoles? Here's the answer from Capcom. One concept we've incorporated into this title is aiming to portray the maximum of the world of Monster Hunter by utilizing the latest technology to its limit. To that end, the platforms capable of realizing that concept are currently the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X/S, and the PC. Going forward, we will provide more thorough details regarding these concepts and themes when we release information on the game. We hope you will look forward to it. So I think that comment is very standard, cut and dry, pretty much what most of us were thinking. But they did say to that end, the platforms capable of realizing that are these current platforms. I do feel once the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out, Monster Hunter Wilds could absolutely be on there. Now, some people have even stated when this was on Twitter and other places like, oh, well, maybe they'll do what they did like the Nintendo Switch, where they'll create a separate game, Monster Hunter World on the PS4, Xbox One, PC, and then Monster Hunter Rise on the Nintendo Switch, which was then that version ported over to PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Now, I don't think Capcom's going to do that considering the amount of money and investment and now forward planning you can do, because if you think about it, guys, Monster Hunter World and the Nintendo Switch, the development atmosphere was aligned pretty off overall, right? Monster Hunter World came out in 2018. The Nintendo Switch came out in 2017. You're still finalizing what you're going to do, the plans, how long it's going to take. It was just off. It completely made sense to just say, hey, let's just create something different. You already had those separate teams creating games on the Nintendo Switch anyway when it comes to the ports of previous Monster Hunter games. However, with the Nintendo Switch 2, if you're looking at it based off of what we know so far, some of the leaks and what we've heard from reliable sources on what this system could do, I definitely think it's more in line with potentially getting something that would be able to handle it, since Xbox Series S can. So they'd be able to port over Monster Hunter Wilds to the Nintendo Switch 2, and the release dates line up a bit better. The Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out in 2025, probably at some point. Monster Hunter Wilds is coming out in 2025 at some point. They haven't stated when, so I absolutely think that this could be one of the big games that Nintendo shows off at an event, saying, hey, we've got Capcom on our side and we've got Monster Hunter Wilds. Capcom and Nintendo have a very good relationship overall, and even if you look at it, Capcom was the one that actually encouraged Nintendo to put more RAM in the original Nintendo Switch. So I personally feel that they absolutely talked to Nintendo about what they need to do to make sure the game can run something like Monster Hunter Wilds and their big upcoming games, like maybe the next Resident Evil and all that, so they don't have to get cloud versions of those games. So I do feel that Monster Hunter Wilds will be coming over to the next Nintendo Switch, and that's why they kind of answered it right there to say, hey, the platforms capable of realizing the concepts currently are this, but going forward, we'll see what happens and we'll give you guys more updates. It's just that the Nintendo Switch 2 or the successor to Nintendo Switch is just not announced yet. So there's going to be more on this, guys. I absolutely feel that Monster Hunter Wilds will be coming, just my own personal opinion. But even if it doesn't, they will probably create something separate, create something new, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think that they're going to try to make Monster Hunter Wilds something that's on all the platforms, because once again, you do have a smaller install base with PS5 and Xbox Series. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to have a smaller install base than the Nintendo Switch, so you probably want to just be able to take that one game and have it on all those platforms and build it going forward together with cross-play, hopefully cross-save, and other things like that, and that will create a much better environment and atmosphere. Imagine being able to play Monster Hunter Wilds on your PS5 or your PS5 Pro at home, and then when you go on the go, you can take the Nintendo Switch 2 version with you with cross-save. That would be instant, incredible sales overall. People will be buying both of those. I know for a fact I would be buying both the PS5 version and the Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game. So I do think that's going to be happening in the future. But what do you guys think? You can let me know in the comment section. But we do have one more topic to get into here with the RPG stuff, and that is a franchise that I was actually into a lot in the 7th generation, but I completely fell off of it, and that is Borderlands. You guys know Borderlands, right? Still one of the best-selling Western RPG franchises out there, and the Borderlands boss has talked about fans will be very, very happy with their next game in the series. So good old Randy Pitchford, head of developer Gearbox, has basically kind of flexed about what's going to be happening with the Borderlands series. Now, it's been a little bit of time since the last game, Borderlands 3, and then there was the Tiny Tina's game as well, but I don't think we're going to have to be waiting long before we find out what's happening next. There's also the Borderlands movie that's coming out, so maybe there's a tease somewhere around that time and all that. So here's what Mr. Pitchford had to say on the next Gearbox game. Quote, "I haven't been perfect at hiding the fact that we are working on many things and that we're working on big things. I'm confident that our fans are going to be very, very happy with the next video game project when we are ready to announce it. And I will tell you that we're not going to be making people wait for a long time before we announce it." So that's probably going to be sometime this year. He says not going to wait a long time. I mean, we're already in the second half of the year, so I'm guessing that it's going to be a Game Awards announcement. It's going to be some type of announcement, maybe at like a PlayStation showcase. I think something like that could definitely be lined up here for the next Borderlands game, which is always going to be big time. This series can sell up to 10 million units per a entry, so it's a massive series overall. Now, Randy does go on more about the Borderlands spin-offs as well. Quote, "We had a bigger result with the first Wonderlands game than we did with the first Borderlands game, so that's something we can build on," Pitchford explains. "I love fantasy. That's why we did the original Dragon Keep DLC for Borderlands 2, because I love fantasy so much. So many of us at Gearbox love fantasy, and it gives us that kind of place to mess around with that in the context of the Borderlands themes and universe. I think it's reasonable for our fans to expect more there. So the Tiny Tina's game unexpectedly did way better than they thought it was going to do overall for sales. It was kind of like a breakout, like, wait a minute, this is just a side spin-off game, and it sold really well. So expect there to be probably another Tiny Tina's or another fantasy world that they build around that, and that makes perfect sense. I'm not sure what it's going to take to get me back into it. I think for me, probably having an optional third person mode to where I can just go into third person, and making gun management not so freaking tedious with the amount of guns that you get, and then only having such a limited amount of slots and constantly having to shuffle and do all that. If they take care of those two things, where they have optional third person mode and they have better gun management, then I am down. I am down to get back into it, because I played and beat Borderlands 1 back on the PS3. I played Borderlands 2 on the Xbox 360. I played Borderlands 3 on my Xbox Series, in addition to the Nintendo Switch, just to see how it ran and everything. So I've played this series over the years, and I bought the Tiny Tina's game, still have it sealed, haven't played it yet, but I've pretty much bought every single Borderlands game, and I have like the pre-sequel and I have all that stuff. So I've supported it throughout the decade plus that it's been out. So I'm interested to see exactly what they do next for this series, and I'll be there waiting to check it out. Even if I don't necessarily like it as much, I'll always check out the game just to see if I'll like it. I don't really like Borderlands 3 that much, but I still bought it just to check it out to see if I'll like it. And I played it for a while. I'm like, okay, I don't really like it too much, but I still got to at least test it out. So what do you guys think about Borderlands? What do you think about Capcom, Monster Hunter Wilds? What's going on there? And of course, Persona 5 The Phantom X getting a console port. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, click that notification bell, and check out our other Nintendo Switch and RPG videos right here on screen. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.